VCLT and Adana.
Hello everybody, it's Brian here in a very, very snowy Toronto. In fact, you may see some peeking through the window back here, or maybe this window. Maybe you can see it, I don't know. We had close to, or somewhere around 60 centimeters of snow, which is almost 2 feet. Out by the airport, they had something like 88 centimeters of snow. So we got a lot all at once. And I have been shoveling snow too often, I would say. The good news is that this is the kind of snow, because it was cold, this is the lighter, drier snow as opposed to that wet, heavy snow you get when the temperature is close to zero. The snow that I loved is when I was a kid because you could make snowmen and snowballs out of it. And we called that packing snow, but I'm not sure that people outside of Ontario called it packing snow. If you do, I'd be curious to know, because when the Oxford Dictionary of Canadian English was originally released, it didn't include the words packing snow. It had snow and all different types of snow, but packing snow wasn't included. There was this local guy who tried to get them to change their mind. They couldn't find any references in literature to it, but come on. I agree with him. It was called packing snow. So this video is recent finds for January part 2. It includes a VC meetup and some long distance VCLT. So yesterday I had plans to meet the French Vinyl Addict at Sonic Boom at 5 o'clock. As it happens, I found out during the day that the store was going to close at 5 o'clock because of the snow. So we managed to change the time to a little bit earlier, so we had a shorter meetup. And after that, we went to a different record store, which was just about to close. So we had a brief meetup. Anyway, during that meeting, the French Vinyl Addict handed me a record from Mike. That's Mike Vinyl Spiral, way over in Leeds. So the backstory to this is that in a video that Mike had posted probably a year ago, he was talking about the wedding present. And I left a comment that said, I have never seen a record by the wedding present in any store, or something like that. And I believe that that is true. I always go to the W section hoping to find something from the wedding present. Never happens. Now, it's possible that, way back 35 years ago or something, maybe I had seen some and don't remember. But recently, certainly in the last many years, last 15 years, I've never seen one. So Mike graciously said that he would send me one if he picked one up, which was very generous of him. And sure enough, he sent me one. So here's the note. So he sent it to the French Vinyl Addict, and Romuald brought it on the last leg from his place in Quebec over to me. So that was fantastic. Anyway, Mike's note said, you may have forgotten, but a long time ago, he said that he would, if he found one, he would send it to me. So that's what he reminded me of here. And I do remember. So fantastic. And here it is. This is George Best, the debut record from the band in 1987. And that is George Best on the cover, the famous Northern Ireland, I guess you'd say footballer over there. We'd say soccer star over here. This is the back. The band formed in 85, released a number of singles before recording their first full-length record. And it's curious to me. I always find this curious when there's a big difference between bands that are popular in one part of the world but not here. So, for example, I don't think that this band was known over here widely. Maybe some people knew it. I was thinking about that radio station I used to listen to called CFNY, and I don't remember them playing the band. They may have, I just don't remember. So it's weird that they had really no success over here. So I've streamed some of their music over the years, and some of the things on here I've heard before, but some I hadn't. So I've listened to this once, and I think it's great. It's jangle pop. Current people might say indie. Maybe post-punk, if you're allowed to say that anymore, is thrown around. I'm not sure exactly, but I think this is a really strong record. And it always strikes me as sad because this band, I don't even know if they toured here. I mean, I'm not up to date, so maybe they didn't. I think this band is still active, though. They put out some lockdown sessions a while ago. Here's the inner sleeve. So, but I think jangle pop is the right term for this band. There's the labels. Fantastic. So once again, Mike, thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for sending it over to North America. And thank you, French Vinyl Addict, for taking it on that last a bit of the way to me. I really appreciate this. And every time someone sends me VCLT, I'm just blown away. I'm just so grateful that people would even think of sending me something or think of me. So thank you very much. I will treasure that forever. Well, at least until I die. Now, at Sonic Boom, I purchased one record. And this is a record where, if you know the channel Northern Revolutions, hosted by Rob, you probably already know what record I'm going to show you. It's not Blue Rodeo, but it is Adam Baldwin. This is Concertos and Serenades from 2022. Now, as I say, if you watch Rob's channel, he's mentioned this album maybe 50 times. It comes up frequently. He has a nice autographed copy of it. And he has also mentioned it in live streams, including some that I've been on. So it's a favorite record of his. Here's the gatefold. So because Rob mentioned it so much, it was a record I had in the back of my mind as something I might buy. And I almost did buy it on Amazon once because it was $25. I couldn't find it locally. But the person who was selling it had a $25 shipping fee, so it was like $50. That's crazy. But this one, as you might notice, is a used copy for $9.99 and graded at Very Good Plus. So this is a singer from the east coast of Canada, from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He's worked with Matt Mays in the past. He appeared on a couple of Matt Mays and El Torpedo records and on a solo Matt Mays record. He was in a band before that. He's had some other sort of associations I can't really go into, but go to Rob's channel, you'll figure it out. This has sort of a folky country sound to it, which did alarm me a little bit because, as you might know, I'm not a country fan. But having listened to it once, I would say I think I can handle that. It's not in-your-face classic country sound. So here we go with that. So we'll see. We'll see if the country sound bothers me or not. But so far, so good. Happy to find that because it's not one I've looked around. When I look in record stores, I look in the B section sometimes, and I haven't seen it. This is the first time I've ever seen it. So kind of a nice surprise to find that. And the price, I can't really beat that. Now, a couple of weeks before that, or maybe a week before that, I was in a different store and I purchased this Daniel Lanois record called Player Piano. So Player, Piano. As you can see, I got a bit of a deal on it. It was almost $38, marked down to $25. It seems to me that $38, $39, $40 is the going price for one record these days, like one single piece of vinyl, which I think is insane. That is, at least, and sometimes more. I was just checking the recent Brian Eno releases, and they're like much more expensive. It's insane. This is a pretty cool record from Daniel Lanois. Now, he's a Canadian musician who's released a number of records under his own name, but perhaps is maybe better known as a producer. Worked with people like U2, with Brian Eno. He's produced, Neil Young, Bob Dylan. There's a long list. I can't possibly remember them all, but a really intriguing musician. I've always loved his music. His guitar sound I find really interesting. He's got a good voice. This is almost entirely solo piano. There is one track with drums, one track with the bass. The rest is just solo piano. The insert in here goes through the genesis of the record, how it came to be, and whatever, a couple statements there. But it's sort of in the jazz or maybe even classical kind of sound, if that makes sense. I would say if you've got up early on a Sunday morning and you're enjoying a cup of tea, this would be good musical accompaniment for that kind of scenario. Kind of peaceful, sophisticated. You'll feel relaxed. I think it's a really good record. Not one you'd put on at a party, probably, but overall it has a really nice feel. And I will, I'm looking for any Daniel Lanois record. Some I've missed, and this one was kind of an irresistible price. So I paid for that one. So cool. And then not finally, what am I saying finally? There's a couple more things here. Next, I would say that if I was going to choose my favorite current Canadian band, I would choose this band, which is called Timber Tomber. There's the back. Timber Tomber. Made up of musicians from Toronto and Montreal. Oddly, though, this is Manhattan. This is called Sincerely Future Pollution from 2022. Also, the Lanois record is 2022 as well. And is the Baldwin record is 2022 as well. Interesting. There's the interior of it. It's very hard to describe what this band sounds like. Just a plain black sleeve, black vinyl. really intriguing. I don't have everything they've released. I have some things. I got a new copy for this incredibly low price, $23.99, which is a steal these days. It's got an interesting hype sticker. Trying to describe this band is really difficult, but I wrote something down, or I copied something down, and someone described their sound as an aesthetic rooted in swampy, ragged blues. I guess I see that. And beautifully restrained blues from an alternate universe. What does that mean? Which creates an atmosphere that is cinematic and spooky. That may also be true. As I say, really difficult to describe it. Now, I do love a well-written, let me say I do love a hype sticker that's overwritten, let's say that. So, by the way, their name came from the fact that they recorded early music in a timber-framed building or lodge or something near Bobcaygeon, Ontario. So, let me read to you this overwritten hype sticker. I'd be curious to know what you think. So, it's called Sincerely Future Pollution. Offering their most daring work yet. This is Timber Tomber's document of our generation's degeneration and disarray. Returning with a cinema of dazzling dystopia, rattled by the science fiction of this bluntly non-fictional time, ironclad grooves are marked by plodding heavy rhythm, cavernous delay, and a backdrop of starry synthesizers. Its promise is as beautiful as it is unsettling. Now, to me, that sounds like AI gone wild. It sounds like they modeled it on a wine review or something. It's kind of a crazy statement, but part of me really enjoys it. So Timber Tomber, if you haven't heard them, I will recommend a song from a different record called Creep On, Creepin' On. If you don't like that, or even Woman from that album. If you don't like that, you're probably not going to like them, but I find them really, really fascinating. Next, let's move to a band that is kind of forgotten in a way, or maybe never really known beyond a certain circle of influence. One of those lost English new wave bands. So this was released for Record Store Day UK 2025, and I have seen this in a couple of stores. I guess they had extras and they shipped them over here, and you'll see that it says Record Store Day 2025 UK. This is Sad Lovers and Giants, the singles collection 1981 to 1983. I have seen this band mentioned once in the VC. Now, I'm not someone who has watched every video, but Dave at Infidelity recently showed their debut record, Epic Garden Music, in a video. He has a repress of that. I mentioned in that video, in the comment, I mentioned that I had seen an original copy of that for a price I couldn't justify paying, but I will be looking for that repressing if I could find a good price. And here again, I have a sale here, so $56.99 down to $35. Now, for me, $35 is, in my mind, too much for a single record, but there's no way. If I saw this in the store for $57, $58, I wouldn't have bought it. But the sale price, yeah, I bought it. So this is a interesting, post-punk. Are we allowed to say post-punk anymore? New wave band, maybe a bit of goth influence from the early 80s, compared to people like Chameleons, The Sound, maybe Comsat Angels, possibly The Cure in a minimal way. And this contains their first 4 singles, or the first 4 EPs. So the first 4 that are shown here, although this one's cut off because of this OB strip here. So they take the tracks from their first 4 things and include them here. So 10 tracks. And I think it's fantastic. Really intriguing music. It's one of those bands, again, where I feel sort of bad that I didn't know about them at the time. And I didn't know about them back in the day. In this period, I didn't know who they were. It's kind of too bad in a way, because I could have spent all this time with them, but here we go. So a really interesting compilation of their early singles, which I quite enjoy on this clear vinyl. So if you ever encounter this band and you like early new wave, maybe unknown new wave, you might like them. I just think they were massively underrated, even now. Maybe this is sort of a resurgence, who knows? I think they're really interesting. And finally, something I'd been looking for a while but was never able to find, and I assumed that it had never shipped to Canada, but I found out through a record store that they had some and they sold out immediately, and they thought they would never get any more, and I walked in and they were just putting 2 on the shelf, so I grabbed one. That is the Deluxe Nebraska edition, which I had been looking for, as I say, for a while. Now, my relationship with this album is a bit of a strange one, in that I bought this record. This is my original 1982 pressing, shortly after it came out, because I was at the time kind of a Springsteen fanatic. And I'd been buying whatever he had. I got one of the records for Christmas that year, or a couple of years before. I knew Darkness on Darkness on the Edge of Town and Born to Run. I wasn't as familiar with the first two at that point. And I will say that when I first heard this, I was a little disappointed, because on the radio they played Atlantic City, and I maybe heard Johnny 99, but I wasn't prepared for the despair and sparseness of this record. In fact, when I was playing it the second or third time, my dad came into the room when Nebraska was on, and he had this sort of strange look on his face. But when Atlantic City came on, he said, "Now that sounds like Bruce." So even he was a little confused by it, perhaps. But I have grown to like it, and I like it quite a lot. I bought the version they had was the European pressing, which has this piece of paper. The American version doesn't have this, I don't think. So it has Nebraska outtakes, Electric Nebraska, the live performance at the Count Basie Theater, and the remaster. I don't need to go through this in any detail, because many other people have done so already. I've listened to everything except I have not yet listened to the remastered record. And I don't need to go through it in any detail, as I said, because you've seen this before. But you've got the two records. You have this really nice booklet here with essays and lyrics and photography. The DVD of the concert, and then the last two records here. And it's a pretty appealing set. It looks very nice. I like it. Now, some people have gone, made videos about how much they love this. Other people have been a little less sure about it, saying that it could have been something better. I think it's pretty good for what it is. I'm happy to hear the Electric Nebraska outtakes. Now, in future, if I'm listening to this, I probably wouldn't listen very often to the outtakes. Maybe. The Electric Nebraska I find kind of interesting. So I will be curious to know if this sounds much better than the original pressing. Of course, I have the compact disc of this as well, because that's what people do now, right? Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you once again to Mike and French Vinyl Addict for getting that record to me. I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.